Welcome to the first edition of RC Racing, the new monthly magazine programme for all things radio-controlled cars and racing. This month we got track tests the biggest and smallest in IC off-road vehicles, but first we're off to Italy. Welcome to RC Racing's coverage of the biggest event in scale racing, the 1/10th World Touring Car Championships. 144 drivers from 26 countries have gathered here in Turin, Italy for this biannual event to discover who is the world's best racer. So how do they separate the good from the very good and the very good from the best? Top British driver Andy Moore explains the qualification system.
We've got 4 rounds of qualifying today, but it's going to be your best 2 to count. So it's not actually done on times, but depending on where you finish in each round, you get a certain number of points. So the TQ man for a particular round will get 155 points, and then the second place gets 153, then 152, 151, 150, and it's your best 2 scores to count. And then if there is a tie at the end of it, then it will go on the fastest time for any particular round. So,
whilst the finals will have a traditional grid start, to ensure a level playing field in qualifying, each driver starts his run individually. The aim to do the most number of laps in 5 minutes. With so many top drivers, accurate timing is vital, and to this end an advanced computer system monitors each heat. Each car carries a unique transponder that automatically measures its lap time as it crosses the start line, and is accurate to 1,000th of a second. Once a heat has been completed, every car must be presented to scrutineering to make sure it complies with all the rules relating to power, tyres, weight and the width and height dimensions. Fail any one of these and your car is excluded from the result and you lose your time. But if you've passed scrutineering, it's time to check the results and see where you qualified, and if you're one of the 10 drivers who've made the A main final and will fight for the World Championship. Now a look at the biggest thing in RC cars, the massive HPI Barger 5B. The Barger 5B is big, nearly 32 inches in length, but as it's a ready-to-run car and powered by standard petrol, it couldn't be easier to get ready for action. The innovative design of the Barger 5B incorporates double wishbone suspension with multi-adjustable aluminium shocks to give superior off-road capability. Dual-rate springs give a progressive characteristic for great handling on all surfaces. A fully engineered drivetrain ensures it gets its massive power onto the ground. Did we mention it's big? Huge power and torque comes from the 23cc engine, and the action never stops. The Barger 5B runs for more than 30 minutes on a single tank of fuel. On the rough stuff, this car is a hoot. Controllable, agile, fast, spectacular, and above all fun. Who said size wasn't important? Radio-controlled touring cars can reach scale speeds in excess of 500 miles per hour and accelerate from rest to 40 miles an hour in just over a second. How do they generate this power? And how do they transmit it in a controllable way onto the ground? The awesome power of these cars comes from highly tuned electric motors, capable of producing almost half a horsepower, which is available from 0 revs. The fuel in these cars is provided by 6 rechargeable batteries, which again are specially selected and matched to provide the maximum amount of power. Managing this huge motive force is a speed controller that acts like a throttle of a normal race car, but being electronic, it can also manage the way the power is delivered to maximise grip and acceleration. The receiver comes next, and this is the unit that takes the information from the transmitter in the driver's hands and converts it into signals the car understands. The steering servo is basically like an electronic steering wheel, remotely turning the wheels. And this little red box is the transponder, a small radio device that broadcasts a unique identifying number to allow the laps to be counted electronically and astonishingly accurately. Putting all this power on the ground is the transmission system. All top-line touring cars are now four-wheel drive with separate belts powering the front and back wheels. At the rear of the car is a fully adjustable limited slip differential, while at the front a solid axle or spool is used, as this gives much better drive out of corners. The components themselves are all of the highest quality. F1 standard carbon fibre mixed with titanium and aircraft grade light alloys. The cars have fully adjustable suspension to tune them to the track, tyre and temperature characteristics. At the rear, springs and dampers can be changed, as can the suspension geometry or roll centre. It's the same story at the front, where the way a car turns into and exits a corner can be tuned and changed using the springs, dampers and geometry. A well-built chassis, coupled with precise dialing in of the car to the track design and conditions, should give you a race car capable of winning, provided you've got that bit of magic behind the sticks. During some high-powered qualifying action, it became apparent that the battle for pole would be between defending world champion Mark Reinhardt of Germany, Britain's #1 Andy Moore, and the most successful man in the history of radio-controlled car racing, Japanese legend Masami Hirosaka. But at the end of the day, and by the narrowest margin, it was Andy who took pole position, and we caught up with him on the eve of the finals. Here you are at the pinnacle of the sport, but where did it all start?
About 18 years ago. It was quite a long time. My dad kind of got me into it. He spotted something at a local club. I think it must have been advertised in the paper maybe, and he took me down and thought it might be something that I might enjoy. Got me into it. He sort of bought all my cars for me, built them all, and I just kind of raced and messed about with friends. I wasn't really too into it back then, but it was about 18 years ago now.
So that would be what, off-road?
No, it was actually on road, just indoors at the local club. It was like on carpet, so they were the old. It was a buggy car, but we just used to race indoors on carpet.
So when was it you suddenly realised, yeah, I'm quite good at that?
Probably not till around about 1992 when I started racing sort of regional level off road, and had a few sort of regional A final finishes and bits and bobs, and a few people sort of started noticing that I was okay. But then the end of 1994 was when I started racing 12 scale. That was the time when David won his first World Championships, and I started racing the same car, and my dad kind of got friends with his dad, and basically ever since then I've sort of followed what David did, and we worked as teammates, and he's taught me a lot of what I know now. So 12 scale wise, that's probably where I've gained most of my skill from, I'd say, because 94 to 98 I used to just race 12 scale non-stop, didn't race any other classes, and then touring car kind of started to become big around 98, and then since then I've been doing more and more and more, and now that's my main class.
So who was the first person to give you their products, or perhaps give you some money?
I think it was probably my current boss, Jason Dearden from HPI Europe. He was running or owned Mirage RC back then, and they used to do Ryan batteries and Corelli motors. And I think they were the first people to give me some help with some form of sponsorship. So
now you're one of the very rare things, you're a factory driver. What does that actually inquire? I know I've seen you working in the office occasionally, but obviously you go out to a number of national and international meetings.
Well, I do actually have a full-time job at HPI Europe, but I'm in a lucky position where being part of the race team, that they let me go to sort of the major races, what the ones that Tatsuro wants a team at. Then Jason's kind enough to let me go sort of whenever I need to go. So, but when I get back, then I have lots of emails to catch up on. So.
So Andy, how much chance do you get to actually do practice, testing a la Formula 1 cars and going off the track and just trying things out?
Not as much as I'd like to, but it's difficult because of the conditions back home. It's obviously a lot colder. The tracks are always very, well, we call it green, where there's very little traction. So the only testing like for this race that I could really do was at the warm-up race, which was in April, and obviously the track conditions here were a lot different because it was much colder. So it's not as easy as, for instance, some of the guys in the US can go and race a club race during the week or at the weekend. There's loads of people, the temperature's high, and the track gets a lot of grip, and it's easier to test stuff. But for me, it's not as easy. Purely because I live in the UK.
And the conditions haven't been really very conducive here, have they?
No, they've not. It's been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. We were supposed to have, I think, 7 rounds of free practice on Wednesday, and we only got 4, and then the heavens opened. Yesterday then was supposed to be 1 round of control practice, and then all the qualifying should have started yesterday. We got that 1 round of control practice, but then down came the rain again.
It's qualifying, so you all theoretically go out by yourselves and you're not involved with anyone else. How different is it when you actually get to the race, the main finals?
Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what's going to happen, but I mean everybody's so close, so it's going to be. I mean, I think everybody's full punch anyway in qualifying, so everybody's going to be just the same, but it's going to be the fastest 10 drivers all going for the same piece of asphalt. So.
And what standards of driving can we expect? Are you gentlemen, or is there a sort of element of, I don't know, of Portuguese footballer in you?
Well, I like to think that I'm pretty clean. There's certain people who you kind of know what to expect, but there's 2 referees up here, so they should be able to catch anything that goes on. So. And
do you think you'll be lifting the trophy tomorrow?
I'd like to think so.
There's something stirring in the undergrowth. Fast, agile, feral. A new breed of RC truck. The Schumacher Rascal. The Rascal is a monster truck in miniature. 1/16th scale, less than a foot long, but packing a superb power to weight ratio due to its oversized 0.18 engine. Using full-size buggy tyres and race shocks, the Rascal can handle terrain that would leave many a larger truck crying for its mummy. An easy pull-start mechanism makes firing up the Rascal a simple affair. And then you're off to play. And the Rascal loves to play, especially if you bring along some friends. And if those friends play rough, the Rascal can take it, as well as dish out its own revenge. Be it on rough or smooth, the Rascal is able to take almost anything in its stride. Capable of 40 miles per hour on the flat, this little marvel is radio control nirvana in miniature. After 3 intensive days of preparation and competition, this is what it's all been about. Coming up is the first race of the A main final. Run over 3 legs with each driver's best 2 scores to count. Anything can happen, and any one of the 10 drivers could end the day as world champion. Now it's over to John Hindhoff with your race commentary.
On pole position then, Andy Moore, the British driver on the Hot Bodies Cyclone. Then it's the Japanese, Hirosaka with the Yokomo BD. Mark Reinhardt, the German. And then first of 2 Americans, Lemieux ahead of Howard. Ronald Volker will be in 6th position. Then it's Victor Wilk, the Swedish driver. Further back in 8th, Craig Dreschler, another Brit coming back into the sport and doing quite well, ahead of the Thai driver, Surikan, and of course, the current European champion, Timo Lino, in 10th position. Andy Moore from pole position and gets away well. Hirosaka, Reinhardt. Howard's gone through into 4th place ahead of Lemieux in this early running. Being tagged by Lemieux and drops down the field. At the head though, it is still Andy Moore. Hirosaka in 2nd place. A little bit of argy-bargy in the midfield here. The leaders though coming through. Moore, Hirosaka and Reinhardt. 1, 2 and 3. Andy Moore just trying to hold his position there. Lemieux back into 4th position. The leaders beginning to pull away. A very technical circuit on the infield here, but some quick places. The car's getting up to 50 miles an hour, and that's a scale speed of 500 miles an hour. As Andy Moore, the Derbyshire driver, is leading. Hirosaka in 2nd, the Japanese. Well, what a career he's had. Multiple world champion in just about every car discipline, but strangely enough has never won this one in the touring car category, so perhaps something of unfinished business. In 2nd place at the moment. Not really close enough to have a strike. There's the battle for 4th position, but the leaders are pulling away at the moment. And Andy Moore with a little bit of pressure starting to come now from the Japanese driver behind him, but not close enough to make that dive down the inside. There's a couple of good overtaking places here on this tight circuit. That's one of them. First right-hander on the brakes incredibly late on these 4-wheel drive cars. So much grip, it's unbelievable. In fact, they drive better than their full-sized counterparts. And look at the drifting of the top drivers in the world here. And it's still the Brit, Andy Moore, that leads out. Watching the clock as well, of course. This is a timed race. Still Hirosaka and Reinhardt, 2nd and 3rd. Very impressed with Andy. He's been psyching himself up for this one. Important to keep his cool. Just hold on to that lead. You'll notice some of the drivers take more curb than others. You don't want to unsettle the cars too much, because if you do get off the ground, even with 4-wheel drive, if none of the 4 wheels are touching the tarmac, then of course you're getting no forward motion at all. Once again through the twisty infield section, and you can see the skill of Andy Moore, who at the moment looks comfortable in the lead. I hope I haven't cursed him by saying that. Top 3 go through. Reinhardt, the German, with the Tamiya, won the World Championship in 2004 in Florida, and for some reason always wears a beanie hat. Some swapping and changing for the minor positions there, but we're focusing on the leader as Moore still leads out. Here's the battle for 6. Surikan, the 2002 World Championship, has a look at Volker and gets through. Classic overtaking manoeuvre on the right-hander there. Now back to the leaders. Still Andy Moore. He's been out there right from the start. Delighted to have qualified on the front row, and there's a problem further down the field. Fortunately, the car coming to rest on its wheels needed no intervention from the marshals. Moore then from pole got the start. He wants to be ahead of Hirosaka. He's heard the stories. He's seen the way that the Japanese driver puts himself around, but at the moment he's got enough of a lead that he doesn't have to worry about that challenge from behind. Mark Reinhardt, the German current world champion, still in 3rd position. Clock ticking down now, and if Hirosaka has got any extra speed, he needs to find it now through the faster parts of the circuit, and braking exceptionally late there into that right-hander. Just look at how that second car is sliding around. Clearly the Japanese driver in 2nd place is beginning to mount a challenge now. As time is running out, it won't be long. Now I'm afraid it's going to be now or never. And the lead is just beginning to come down a little bit. Huge amounts of grip from those front tyres on the slower sections. The car's really turning in very tightly, and it's easy to get on the power too early and loop the cars around. And now look at this, the battle for the lead. Time is ticking down, maybe 1, possibly 2 more laps before the end of this first day final. Yes, this is going to be the penultimate lap, and the Japanese in second place obviously knows that. He's had the pit signal, and he's beginning to close down on Andy Moore. Not much time, it takes a lot of curve there. The Japanese driver in second place lost a bit of ground. Now he's beginning to gain on the Englishman. Can he get close enough for an attack? Oh, very late on the brakes there. Surely nowhere through on the infield. But Hirosaka doesn't know that. He's trying everywhere at the moment. 1, 2, 3 goes to get through, and he's hit the leader. He's hit the leader, but Andy Moore manages to recover. Reinhardt has gone through into second place. Well, we know the Japanese driver is well known for his hard tactics, and we saw it there, but it's a win for Andy Moore. Confirmation then that Andy Moore takes the victory from Mark Reinhardt. Hirosaka recovers to third position after that last lap dice and dive down the inside. Then it's Paul Lemieux, Craig Jessler, Ronald Volker, Timo Lino up to 7th from 10th on the grid, Surikan, Vilk and Howard making up the top 10.
Andy back in the cooler pits, but that was a very hot race there, and congratulations, you are one half of the way there to being world champion.
Halfway there, yeah. One to go, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that all went well. The last lap got a little bit close. Masami just managed to close in. He made an attack, but kind of cost him more than it cost me. So yeah, everything was okay in that one. And we'll
it started very well. You managed to hold a pretty consistent second lap. Then in those last laps, Masami did come back at you. Was he saving his car, or were you driving more conservatively?
I was trying to drive a little bit more conservatively and just trying to keep everything absolutely perfectly online. And obviously, seeing him catch so quickly, then you try and defend, and then you sometimes overshoot. And I made just a couple of little errors, just like maybe, I don't know, half a foot past the corner on a few occasions, but apart from that, everything was okay.
And what went through your mind at the exact moment of impact? If it's printable.
Here we go again, because warm-up right? No, I'm not going to go there, but I kind of expected something at some point, but
it cost him in the end.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe he won't do it again, but we'll see.
Best of luck for next finals. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
That's all for this first edition of RC Racing. Coming up next month, we have more exclusive action and interviews from the World Championships, a look at the most popular RC truck in the world, and we chat with one of the pioneers of radio-controlled car racing, Cecil Schumacher. That's all on RC Racing next month here on Motors TV. Crying for its mummy.